Health workers in Brazil fear the country could become the next COVID-19 hotspot. Trinidad and Tobago extends its stay-at-home order and border lockdown to May 15th. And Libya's renegade military commander Khalifa Haftar dismisses UN-Libya unity deals as a thing of the past. Hello and welcome to Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo in Quito, Ecuador. This is from the South. Concerns are growing across Brazil over whether the country will become the latest COVID-19 hotspot as cases are increasing at an accelerated pace. Health professionals at a hospital in the suburbs of Rio de Janeiro have reported that deaths caused by COVID-19 doubled in the span of a week. Around 65 burials are being carried out per day in the city of Duque de Caxias, while a number of possibility infected patients are sent home due to lack of beds in hospitals. Brazil has officially reported about 4,500 deaths and almost 67,000 infections, but experts warn the real figures could be exponentially higher.
On April 14, we had 38 COVID-19 burials. Now, by last Friday, we have an average of 63 to 65.
And 20 port districts of the Brazilian city of Sao Paulo have seen a 45% increase in the COVID-19 death toll in just a week. Our correspondent in Brazil, Brian Muir, has more.
I'm standing on the north side of São Paulo near the neighborhood of Brasilândia, which is the hardest hit region in the city of São Paulo. Now, it's an area of massive favelas and working class housing subdivisions, and it's recorded the highest number of cases. But it's important to remember when you look at the media attention given to São Paulo and coronavirus that 1 in 5 Brazilians live in the state of São Paulo. And if you look at the per capita data on the pandemic, you can see that there are other states in Brazil that have higher per capita infection and death rates, and these are among the most poor states in the country. For example, Amazonas, in the Amazon region, the public hospital system's ICU wards have been packed at 100% capacity for over a week now. And the states of Ceará and Pernambuco, also in the impoverished Northeast, have their ICU wards with 100% occupancy as well. So it's important to note that although the coronavirus was originally brought to Brazil by the middle class, it seems to be spreading the hardest and the fastest right now in the poorest areas of the country.
We thank Brian Muir for that report. Indigenous leaders in Brazil have made a call for international assistance, saying they are one of the most vulnerable populations, lacking access to medical assistance and facing numerous attacks by the far-right government.
This coronavirus is a very serious problem, as much for you as it is for the indigenous peoples. As you know, the Brazilian president doesn't care about us. On the contrary, the president is only looking to attack us. We need financial help, so I am turning towards you to help my community. We need to receive supplies, basic food supplies, hygiene products, education, and also food for transport. Without your help, the indigenous peoples of Brazil would not be able to face this awful sickness.
Moving on, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says the country is on track to bring the COVID-19 pandemic under control due to measures adopted by the government.
Vamos bien. We are doing well because it has been possible to tame the epidemic instead of it exploding, as has unfortunately happened elsewhere. Here the growth has been horizontal. We are grateful to the public because they continue to comply with the measures to the letter, and that has helped us a lot. So we do not have an overflow. The hospitals are not saturated.
The government of Paraguay has announced that classes at all educational establishments has been suspended until December as a preventive measure against the spread of the coronavirus.
We have come to report a decision we have taken with the Education Minister, following health protocols, and as the governing body of public policy, in this case the Health Ministry, to postpone in-person classes until December.
Venezuelan authorities announced an economic plan to control speculation and induced inflation in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic.
Safeguarding access to food is one of the most important tasks of the Bolivarian government, but people are concerned about an increase in prices that has been ongoing over the last few weeks.
It's very expensive, but if you want to survive, you have to pay. We cannot start a boycott, as some say.
This inflation in the price of food led to government intervention.
I think their plan is good. If they'll intervene to regulate prices, then I agree.
Authorities allowed state intervention in a number of companies, as well as the expropriation of land to ensure fair prices and a steady stream of supplies.
We are establishing food pricing mechanisms with the main producers. We've been meeting for 3 days, and I know where the most critical issues are, as well as the main effects of this speculative false economy.
Hyperinflation is one of the main issues caused by price speculation at the hands of large private companies. This on top of an illegal exchange rate for the dollar caused by websites on social media accounts, which further devaluates the local currency to the tune of 131% in April and 178% since the quarantine started.
They know they have from top to bottom, first the farmer, the slaughterhouse, the distributor, this due to the dollar, because most people don't use the central bank exchange rate, but the illegal rates which are much higher.
We are not going to allow speculators to take advantage of this global situation. It's time for solidarity and for humanity. It's time to consider what is going on around the world and how we are living through it, and how they're risking people's lives.
The government will soon provide a new pricing scheme for all producers.
More stories coming up, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. Trinidad and Tobago has extended its stay-at-home order and border lockdown to May 15th. This was announced by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley on Saturday. The Caribbean island has seen the number of new COVID-19 cases slowly rise, with one new positive on Sunday night, bringing the country's total to 116. To date, 59 people have recovered, while 8 people have died from the illness.
If we go back to our normal situation too early, it is very easy to have a resurgence. And we're not inventing any wheel here. You would have seen countries that thought that they were in a position to go back to some normalcy, and you saw what would have happened. I don't have to give you the international news. But the bottom line is that we are aiming to score a whole point as against half a point, because so far, so good, we have done well enough. And if, as we expect, and I should say as we are hoping, that the rate at which new additions come to the confirmation column, meaning if we see the kinds of numbers we have been seeing for the last 3 weeks or so, if that is what we are going to see going forward to the 15th of May, at that time, by the 10th of May, we would be able to say to the country very confidently that we can begin to come out of the shell that we put ourselves into.
The U.S. government continues to deport citizens to El Salvador. Meanwhile, over 4,000 Salvadorians are stuck outside their country and are asking for support from their government.
The Salvadoran Institute of Migration provides medical attention for nationals who have returned from the United States. Many of them have chronic diseases which are aggravated by their deportation.
Their emotional state is in shambles, and they need to be put under quarantine by law. So, they come here after having been imprisoned for 6 to 8 months and arrive to another lockdown. But still, the quarantine is a must to determine whether they have been infected.
Food and medicine and books are provided for them, but these citizens have, for the most part, not received emergency funds offered by the President Nayib Bukele.
We are grateful for this help because we haven't received any benefit or any money. I have found myself in very bad situation because we have nothing. We have only received help from these charitable souls.
On top of these ongoing deportations, around 4,500 Salvadorans have been stuck outside the country after the national airport was closed down.
We cannot deny entry to any citizen. The Constitutional Court has decreed that after a habeas corpus request by some of those who are abroad. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has also spoken on this subject, as well as most international bodies. They are hoping President Bukele will respond favorably, as he has been acting in a dictatorial manner.
After the presidential veto, the legislative decree that regulated the return of Salvadorans during the health emergency, the Foreign Ministry announced a repatriation plan that will be put into effect starting May 1st.
Social organizations in Argentina are carrying out activities to help citizens cope with the health crisis due to COVID-19.
The poor sectors work and provide the most so those in vulnerable situations can be protected from the pandemic.
We don't have a large industry for these products, so we started to work with the animate, with various ministries. A large number of unions in Buenos Aires also came together to produce protective equipment for health workers.
Social leaders agree that the work of labor unions now is key.
We inherited a crisis from the Macri administration by making a huge effort. We've managed to enter the quarantine with 417 food kitchens, which have gone up to 550.
Their work is a product of organization by various social and political sectors in coordination with the state.
Our textile unions are working to sell their products to state institutions. We are also selling to private buyers, and we are providing people with food and face masks, our neighbors mostly.
Many agree that this is an elemental stage to promote solidarity and a new form of organizing.
The class struggle did not start with the pandemic, and it's not going to end with it either. The popular sectors need to organize better. We need more solidarity. We need a project that places the redistribution of wealth at the forefront, and that guarantees employment. We can't get out of this if people have work, and also we need to consider what someone once called a 50-50 split in rent payments.
That is a quote by the elected leader Juan Perón, who also said that in the Brotherhood of Workers will be the base for a united homeland for all Argentinians.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has announced a gradual phasing out of the country's lockdown in the cities of Lagos and Abuja from May 4th.
I have approved a phased and gradual easing of lockdown measures in FCT, Lagos, and Ogun states effective from Monday, 4th of May 2020. However, this will be followed strictly with aggressive reinforcement of testing and contact tracing measures while allowing the restoration of some economic and business activities in certain sectors.
Meanwhile, Lagos residents have welcomed the state government's decision to make the wearing of a face mask mandatory. On Sunday, the governor of Lagos declared that wearing face masks in public was now compulsory and that failure to do so will follow a fine. The number of confirmed cases in the city stands at 731, more than half of the confirmed cases in Nigeria.
Why I'm wearing the face mask is because of the virus in the country now, the COVID-19, and it's throughout the whole world. So I advise the fellow Nigerians to wear the mask because of the virus, because the spreading of the virus is getting more every day.
Our country so should start wearing it because it's going to protect the virus. So I have to follow I have to follow the law.
Our collaborator in South Africa, Kleber Banganayi, spoke with Cuba's ambassador about the medical cooperation and the historic relationship between the two countries.
In response to a request made by the government of South Africa, Cuba decided to support the great efforts already underway here to contain the coronavirus. So we have, just a few hours ago, we have received a Cuban medical brigade. We are so glad of the coincidence that our medical doctors just arrived in a very special day in the history of South Africa, which is 27th of April, Freedom Day. Today we are commemorating the defeat of the apartheid and the beginning of a new and free South Africa. So the brigade is integrated by 217 healthcare specialists, which include family physicians, epidemiologists, healthcare technology engineers, biotechnologists, among others. And they will be deployed very soon in the whole provinces of South Africa to assist in the fight against coronavirus. We are doing so because for us, the only answer, the only way to defeat coronavirus at the global level is cooperation and international solidarity. And in the case of South Africa, we have even more reason to do so, given the very special and deep relations of friendship and cooperation between Cuba and South Africa. Relations that were consolidated many years ago during the contribution of Cuban internationalist combatants in Africa. You know, Cuba lost the life of 2,289 internationalist combatants for the liberation of many countries in Africa, including the defeat of the apartheid.
Yemen's Southern Transitional Council has declared a self-rule of the country's southern region following the collapse of a peace deal signed with the internationally recognized government last November. The council has accused the government of failing to perform its duties and neglecting their region. Separatists in the south, which used to be an independent country, have repeatedly tried to break away.
As citizens, the decision of the Southern Transitional Council is the right one because we are suffering too much from the lack of services and the bad management of the resources in the south. The lack of electricity, the lack of salaries, the disasters we are facing without any support from the legitimate government.
We're taking one last break, but stay with us. Welcome back. The commander of Libya's Arab armed forces, Marshal Khalifa Haftar, has declared that a UN-brokered agreement with the government of National Accord to unite the country has become, quote, a thing of the past. His statement on Monday threatens to deepen the crisis in the war-torn North African nation.
Dear free Libyans, we have monitored your response to our call and are announcing the dropping of the suspected political agreement that destroyed the country and led it to dangerous slips and to mandate of those whom you deemed qualified to lead this stage. While we express our pride in authorizing the General Command for this historic mission in these exceptional circumstances and stopping the work of the political agreement to become part of the past, by a decision of the Libyan people who are the source of powers, therefore we announce the response of the General Command of the Armed Forces to the will of the people.
The U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee launched an investigation on Monday over President Donald Trump's blocking of funds for the World Health Organization, giving the State Department a week to provide information about this decision. While the committee's chairman claimed the UN Health Agency is, quote, imperfect and that he would support reforms, he added that cutting the WHO's funding while the world confronts the COVID-19 tragedy is not the answer. He then asked the State Department to provide 11 sets of documents or other information related to the decision to withhold funding no later than 5 p.m. on May 4th. And also in the U.S., New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced that on May 15th, a few businesses in specific regions will be allowed to reopen. This will be done in phases as long as there is a consistent decline in number of COVID-19 cases leading up to the date.
The pause is statewide until May 15th, right? Then you have the CDC guidance that says total hospitalization is declining for 14 days, okay? Phase 1 of reopening will involve construction and manufacturing activities. Phase 2 would then be more a business-by-business analysis using the matrix that we've discussed. How essential a service does that business provide, and how risky is that business?
Our correspondent in New York, Karina Cartagena, has more.
Governors across the U.S. have the choice to lift their quarantine and reopen their states. Last week, Oklahoma, Alaska, Texas, South Carolina, and Georgia allowed business to reopen and citizens have returned to their normal life. This despite warnings by health experts that have said this decision is too sudden, adding that a second outbreak could begin. This week, Florida is set to end its quarantine starting on April 30, although some beaches have already reopened. Other states have discussed a allocation to lift the quarantine at the same time, while in states like New Jersey and California, there is still no word on when this could happen. Nonetheless, in New York, Andrew Cuomo has said the quarantine will be lifted on May 15, although this depends on the rate of infections and deaths. In the midst of this crisis, New York is also facing a food emergency, as Cuomo said that the demands in food kitchen has doubled.
We thank Karina Cartagena for that report. The UK government's top medical advisor has said the nation has a very long way to go in its attempt to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus, adding that people should not focus on just passing through the first peak of cases.
We need to view this epidemic over the long run, and this has got a very long way to run. I'm really cautious about putting out, and I've said this again repeatedly, these kind of absolute numbers, because this could go in a lot of different ways over the next many months until such time as we have a clear exit.
Clashes broke out between protesters and security forces in northern Lebanon on Monday, following a crash in the local currency and a surge in food prices. A number of enraged citizens also smashed the fronts of local banks and set fire to an army vehicle. Scattered anti-government protests resumed last week as the government began easing the weeks-long lockdown to limit the spread of the new coronavirus, which has reported 710 cases and 24 deaths so far. The Director General of the World Health Organization said on Monday that the world should have not downplayed the seriousness of the pandemic.
The world should have listened to WHO then carefully, because global emergency, the highest level of emergency, was triggered on January 30 when we only had 82 cases and no deaths in the rest of the world. And every country could have triggered all its public health measures possible.
He also said that the pandemic is far from over and that countries should consider carefully the easing of social distancing measures.
But the pandemic is far from over. I repeat, the pandemic is far from over. WHO continues to be concerned about the increasing trends in Africa, Eastern Europe, Latin America, and some Asian countries. As in all regions, cases and deaths are underreported in many countries in these regions because of low testing capacity.
At the same press briefing, the chair of the WHO Emergency Response Program added that thanks to lockdown measures across the world, the global rate of infections have partially decreased.
the public health and social measures, the lockdowns, have created huge pressure on the virus. They're preventing the virus finding new victims. And in doing that, you're putting that pressure on the virus's capacity to survive. And I think it's fairly logical that if you lift that pressure too quickly, the virus can jump back. And we don't know how quickly, and we don't know for sure which are the measures that will result in a successful exit strategy.
And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And be sure to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Until next time.